Okay, so I got some thoughts today. A lot of these kind of from some Russell Brunson stuff that I've been listening to, but I have thoughts about resumes. Go figure. But a lot of it is it's kind of different stuff. So the thing that sort of set me off was Russell saying that when you're selling something, you're selling a destination, not a journey. And they got me to thinking that one of the mistakes that I make often is selling the journey. That I get so wrapped up in my process, and I know that my process is special. It's something that I've kind of built over time. It's something interesting. It's different. It's not what everyone else is doing. And I know that there are certain things about it that make my service special, different, better. However, none of that is important to the customer. And that's the point of what Russell says, is you're selling the destination, not the journey. So do I need to sell somebody on the reason why they should pay me hundreds of dollars for a resume because I do a one-on-one interview with you? No, that's not, if anything, that's a bug for them. That's not a feature. They might rather not have to meet with a resume expert for an hour-long interview. They might much rather that I just suss out what's important. I know it doesn't work that way, which is why I do it the way I do it. However, I'm not I should not be selling the one-on-one time with them. Although I do think on some level, people like to talk about themselves. So that may be kind of an end good in and of itself. However, I digress. Selling the destination, not the journey. What is the destination? When I did a webinar with my friend Andrea a while back, I think back on that often because the webinar was not successful. What we offered was not successful. Now, I learned a lot. I don't know how much Andrea learned. She did get some kind of coaching hours out of it. I got a couple of, I don't think we got any clients out of the webinar. I'll be honest with you. But one of the things that we did learn from that, and one of the things that I highlighted in that talk was kind of breaking things down super Barney style, as we said in the Marine Corps. So super duper simple. How do you get a job? And I treated this kind of like a joke. The joke did not land at all. She didn't, I kind of surprised her with it. She wasn't ready for it. We didn't rehearse with the crap. I mean, the thing failed for a million reasons. However, I said, how do you get a job? It's foolproof two-step process to getting a job. Step one, get an interview. Step two, win the interview. Now that was supposed to be funny. It wasn't because I just suck at delivering jokes. I think the line can be funny in the right context. I didn't do well with it. And she was not ready for it. However, fact remains. Two-step process, right? How do you get a job? Get an interview, win said interview. That's it. Everything else kind of sprouts out from there. Well, none of that is resume stuff, is it? It doesn't speak about the resume there. But the first part is implied that it's a resume thing. So step one, get an interview. Step two, win said interview. Let's totally disregard step two for right now because I'm just not fully in that business of interview coaching. I do that and I can do that. It's available on my website. However, I am much more squarely in the resume business. So I'm in the step one of that. Get an interview. How do you get an interview? Win with the resume. Therein, there are a million misconceptions about how to do that. And that's kind of the information gap that I'm trying to close. However, the fact remains that the whole of that step one, get an interview, is almost totally dependent on your resume. unless you want to network, which most people that are in the business of buying great resumes, you're not networking. Otherwise, you'd be using that as your calling card. But your resume has one job, and that is to get you an interview. That's it. That's all it's there for. And that's where the misconceptions come in. What does a resume have to be to get you an interview? Does it have to make you look like the absolute best, the utter unicorn of the bunch of applicants? No, it does not. As a matter of fact, that may be a negative. And I've talked about that in other places. But yeah, you being the unicorn, you being the absolute creme de la creme of candidates for the job it can be a net negative. And it can lead to a candidate that's going to fail or is not going to get interviewed at all. So your goal with the resume should definitely not be make yourself into a unicorn. Your goal with the resume should be make yourself qualified for that job. Your resume has one job, and that is to get you an interview. What you do with the interview from there is on you. But by that point, the resume has gone out, has moved out and drawn fire. It has, made you a target, made you the target for the job, and now it's on you to go earn it. Okay. So step one, get an interview. Step two, win said interview. What is the 90% of the effort of step one? Have a competitive resume. What kind of resumes get interviews? Oh boy, that is the $64,000 question. Maybe quite literally, because getting a resume that will get you interviews is the battle. And it can be worth tens, hundreds, thousands, millions of dollars potentially. Can be the difference between you making $1 million and you not making that. And I've had a couple of customers lately who came back to me and said immediately, the resume you wrote me was getting me interviews right off the bat. And that just warms the cockles of my heart. So I want to talk today about a handful of things that you can do to make your resume an interview getting resume. We're selling the destination here. The destination is the interview. Your resume has one job, and that is to get you in the interview room. So what am I selling? I'm selling a resume that will get you interviews. What you do from there, that's on you. Coach you for that. That's all separate thing. So because I like doing 5 things, has a nice symmetry to it. Let's talk about 5 things that you can do with your resume that will make it more likely to get you an interview right now, today. I am not squarely in the business of data career coaching. I can do that, and I'm qualified to do that. However, there are lots of people out there that are technical experts. Andrew Jones, Alex Freeberg, Avery Smith. Lots of people out there have boot camps, and they will train you on all of the technical things that you need to know. Some of them actually use my content as their career portion of their boot camps. Alex Freeberg is one of the few that is, I would say, is a good career mentor, almost as good as he is a technical mentor. Most of them, they're not great. And so you kind of need to go elsewhere once you have the technical skills to get the career guidance. That's where I come in. But the issue is that with regards to me, I am not going to coach you to technical expertise. It's just not my niche. I'm a career guy. There are plenty of people out there that can coach you to technical expertise. Where I meet the clients, they are where they are technical wise. So my guidance is get your resume as good as it possibly can be and start applying for jobs for which you are technically qualified. Now, there's a whole lot of guidance out there about apply for jobs where you meet 70% or 80% or whatever kind of shortfall of the qualifications. And there's a whole, gets into imposter syndrome and all of that sort of nasty stuff. I'm not here to talk about that today. I talk about that. I got plenty of other videos on imposter syndrome and, job application strategy. Not here to talk about that today. I want to give you 5 things that you can do with a resume that will make it immediately more likely to get that interview. Okay. So quite an extensive preamble here. Let's see, where are we on the recording? Oh, it's Zoom, so we're not getting a time. Okay. I'm experimenting with Zoom here. StreamYard annoys me a little bit with the processing power it requires on my machine. But anyway, we'll see how this goes. So with that, 5 things that will take your resume right now today with your technical qualifications and will make you more likely to get an interview. Okay. I don't know if I should go 1 through 5 or 5 through 1. I'll just do the order that I wrote them down on the paper. Number 1, the format. In tech, format does not get near enough love. As a matter of fact, it seems like there's almost this counterculture against attractive resume formats. It seems like tech and data industry people just have this hatred for good-looking resumes. And there's a handful of templates out there. It seems like every college student is using a particular one. It seems like every kind of immigrant is using a particular one. And it seems like just kind of different niches in the data industry. They all have their kind of pet template. Probably all freebies on Microsoft Word, if I'm being honest. But they're all terrible. Varying degrees. There are some that are not an absolute atrocity. However, most of them, most entry level or career pivot data analysts' resumes that I see, they make my eyes bleed. And a lot of that is formatting. It is, my friends, it is not a crime to have an attractively formatted resume. Don't go crazy. Don't get with like wacky graphics that are going to make it scan poorly, or don't have like fancy little like chevrons or fleur-de-lis bullets or anything weird like that. But to have add a little color with the font, like a navy blue font instead of a black font throughout. To have a font that's not Calibri or something awful that looked like a kid drew it with crayon. It's not a bad thing. It really isn't. And the attractiveness of a resume does count. Now, it may not count consciously. You may not find a hiring manager that says, "Oh yes, I definitely give bonus points for appearance." But a resume that makes a reader go, as opposed to a resume that makes a reader go, just instinctively, personal, like human bias. It's like when you meet somebody and they smell good. Doesn't matter if they're man, woman, they're wearing cologne that, is kind of judiciously applied and it smells nice. It's as a woman, they're wearing perfume that smells nice. Doesn't matter if it's a romantic thing or just, you're just kind of chatting with someone in line at the store. If they smell good, that's just appealing to the senses. It's the same way with an attractive format resume. It counts. Trust me when I tell you it counts. So attractiveness is one thing, but then actually caring about the format to the point where you're highlighting the things that are important. What people tend to do, and they go way overboard with this, is they tend to boldface just dumb stuff throughout the resume. It drives me bonkers. They'll highlight random words. It's like they're like putting dumb hashtags in their LinkedIn post. It's just stupid. Don't do that. But your name should be a larger font than the basic text of the resume. Your job title, which you should put at the top, the job title that you intend to hold, it should be a larger, like heavier font. It should be in bold. It should maybe be a different color. Something should draw the eye to the important pieces of information within the resume. And yes, you can boldface certain things. The problem is that people that use boldface, they tend to just overdo the heck out of it. Okay. So there's a lot of different things that go under formatting, but just basic, paying some attention to a somewhat attractive format, paying attention to what font you're using, what weight you're using, what colors you're using. Um, it just looks better than that kind of, the one I'm talking about, that basic Word template Calibri headings font. It just looks like junk. And after a hiring manager has seen 20 of those exact same formats, there's nothing that makes resume number 21 pop when they look at it. Okay, so number one is format. Number two, establish your worth early, your value. I see way too many people that either don't have a summary section, which stinks because you lose control of the narrative, or they do have a summary section, and that summary section is just jam-packed full of buzzwords and catchphrases. I'm cross-functional. I'm go-getter. I'm seasoned. All of these dumb words that have no meaning. Your summary, I'm a firm believer that your summary should exist. There should be a summary on your resume, because you want to be talking to a hiring manager. You don't want to be punching them in the face with bullets right off the bat. You want to establish a conversation and a narrative, but that narrative has to establish your value right off the bat. And so have a summary, establish your worth in the summary, your concrete worth. What are your key skills? What are your key qualifications for the job? What are your major accomplishments? A couple of those, the real highlights, the top things that you're hanging your hat on, maybe a project if you're hanging your hat on projects, but establish your worth early. So right off the top, format, name, title, who are you, what do you do? Summary, same thing. Who are you? What do you do? What skills do you bring to the table? What kind of job do you want? That right there establishes value and establishes why are you sending a resume today? Okay, that's important. Like establish your why, establish your value. Why am I sending you a resume and why should you read it? That's just basic kind of human greeting, right? It's an elevator pitch. You want to hit them with 30 seconds worth of you should keep reading my resume because, and there it is. Okay, so number one, format. Number two, establish your worth in the summary, or definitely if you refuse to use a summary right off the top, whatever that top section is should be your establishment of value. Very rarely is that your education. I hate to say it, but for 95% of job applicants that I see, your education is not your value proposition. It's not what establishes you for the job. All right, so that's one and two. And number three, make sure this might be the most important. I didn't do a great job of kind of building the drama here, but number three, make sure your skills section matches the job description. There are a handful of things that the hiring manager is definitely going to read on your resume. Summary may not be one of them, especially if you start off boring. I'm a seasoned blah, blah, blah with, 4+ years of, you've already bored them to death. But they may or may not read the summary, but they are definitely going to read the skills section. Why? Because that is the most concrete segment that matches one-to-one here are the skills required for the job. Here are the skills that I have. So that is the quickest thing that they can scan and say, this person does have the skills or this person doesn't have the skills, or at least their, self-assessment is they have the skills. Okay, so if the job says must know Tableau and Python, if your skills section says Tableau and Python, you're probably good. Now, this can be kind of a fait accompli just because the ATS may already have scanned for that. All right. So that's one of the things the ATS is going to scan for. It's going to match the skills section between the job description and your resume. So that may or may not be the most important thing. But all that means is it's even more important because if the skills section doesn't match the job description, ain't no hiring manager ever going to look at your resume because the ATS is going to screen it out. All right. So make sure the skills section matches the job description. Well, what does that mean in the short term? I already told you I don't do a lot of technical coaching. I will do career coaching with people and I will prescribe a, course of study or maybe, fit skills that you need to work on. But usually by the time a customer comes to me, they're a finished product. You're looking for work now and we need to get you a job now. So your skills section, your skills are what they are. Your skills section is not going to change much other than if it's not up to date, which get it up to date. So cast that aside. But if you're planning to play the do I have the skill or do I not kind of game. Now, I don't like dealing with that because it just feels dishonest to me. Obviously, there's the, other videos deal with the imposter syndrome thing and the, what percentage of the qualification should you have before you apply for the job. Not really discussing that here. What I recommend is that you match if the job description says must have these skills and it's not like some clown listing of ridiculous, like it doesn't have 7 different programming languages. If it's fairly reasonable and it does actually sound like a job description, like the skills that you might use on that job, make sure your skills match it. If not, apply for a different job. There's all sorts of jobs out there for all sorts of skill levels. Don't believe the hype that every data job market is miserable and awful and a meat grinder. And you don't have to go too far on LinkedIn to find a slew of influencers telling you that the job market is the most horriblest job market they've ever seen in, 27 years in the data industry. It's lies. Lies. Okay. I don't know why they say that. Trust me, it's false. Just almost by definition, it's just not true. Anyway, but we'll talk about that another time. Skill section, match the job description. If your skill section doesn't match the job description, you can roll the dice and maybe apply for it anyway and hope to get lucky. I would say that you're probably setting yourself up for failure and you're setting a hiring manager up for annoyance if you get into an interview and they say, hey, you said you were pretty good with Power BI and you were like, oh yeah, I'm working on it. And they say, well, what the heck? Like, this job requires Power BI. You said anyway. I don't recommend that you play too much of the I got 70% of the skills game. Just me. I recommend that you aim for jobs for which you are either fully or mostly qualified. But skill section, match the job description. It is a section that the hiring manager is going to read. So if you don't get screened out by the ATS for missing skills, a human reader is going to look at it and say, well, this person wasted my time, or, the ATS wasted my time, whatever. Okay, so number 1, format. Number 2, establish your worth in the first section, which I believe should be the summary. And then number 3, make sure your skills section matches the job description. Number 4 is match your experience to the requirements. This is where you can get a little bit more creative. And to me, it's not dishonest or it's not a flat out lie. Try not to skirt any dangerous ground there, but experience is a place where you can reinterpret things that you've done from a different lens. I took experiences that I had in the military where I had a job title that was not data analyst, and I reinterpreted them. I looked back at them and I said, I was doing data analytics, just kind of viewed through a different lens. And to me, that's not, if you're honest about it, and if you're looking back on it saying, I was doing data analytics or I was doing whatever thing, um, and just because of the nature of the work or the nature of the company or whatever, it had a different name. You can match your experience to the requirements. So if jobs that I put in for coming out of the Marine Corps said X years, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, of analytics experience. Well, if you're not going by these specific job titles, like, you know, manpower management officer, if you assume that certain titles are just kind of genetic to that line of work, you can reinterpret it and say, I was doing data analytics at Headquarters Marine Corps Manpower Management. I was a human resources analyst. It just wasn't in the title at the time. So matching your experience to the requirements, because your experience is the one section that the hiring manager, if you haven't bored them to death right at the top of the page, is guaranteed to read. Why? Because they want to see if it matches the job requirements, and if you're someone that they want to talk to because you're qualified for the job. So just make sure if you've got to kind of, honestly rework some job titles, if you've got to, um, kind of tweak some dates or whatnot. I'm not advising anyone to lie on their resume. I would never do that. As a matter of fact, I really don't want to be the guy that helps rewrite somebody's resume where there are lies on it, because that's going to look bad on me. Um, but yeah, like match your experience to the requirements. Um, and again, with all of the caveats about applying for jobs before you may be 100% ready or meet all of the requirements, worst they can say is no. And as long as you're okay with hearing no or hearing silence quite often, maybe shoot for the stars. It's up to you. So that is number 4, experience and requirements. And then number 5 is trim the experience section down. I would say of the 100 or so resumes that I've written over the years and the couple of thousand resumes that I've read, 9 out of 10 need paring down rather than flushing out. There are definitely some, and I love when they need flushing out because that's a whole lot easier problem to handle. The ones that need paring down, that is tough. Um, because most people are putting kind of worthy things for the most part into their resumes. And trying to decide what to cut can be an emotional experience. I know this from personal experience, having to cut out things that I was very proud of in my military experience, but they just didn't sell. And so there can be a lot of ego, there can be a lot of emotion, there can be a lot of kind of sadness involved in trimming things out of your resume. But the point is the same thing with the don't overdo the boldface, don't overdo the verbiage, the word count. Looking at a resume that is a steaming wall of text, just word salad, start to finish, is, I don't even want to say it's intimidating, because it'll cause somebody to quit. A hiring manager, if they look at something and it is just densely packed, your resume is probably just getting cast aside. Because life's just too short. And as everybody that complains about the job market will tell you, there's a tough job market. Oh, every time I apply for a job, there's 1,000 applicants. Yeah, there's 1,000 applicants. Now, not all of them are qualified. However, a lot of them are. And so if you make your resume difficult to read, it may never get read. Certainly not to the extent that you want it to be. So if when a hiring manager looks at an experience section and they see each job has 2 or 3 bullets and those bullets are heavy hitters, showing measurable, quantifiable impact on a key performance indicator that is traceable back to you and your actions, and there have the sufficient level of detail saying what you did, um, that's going to be value added. And if you don't distract them with a lot of fluff and word salad and kind of garbage that doesn't sell, if the only thing they see, pardon me, still fighting off a cold, if the only thing they see is impact, then they're going to come away with the impression that you're a person that causes impact and that you do great things. Um, so that is without a kind of career redirection, without a kind of skill section overhaul, or going out and taking the next 6 months to do a stack of portfolio projects and put together a nifty website. Right now, today, the you that is here today with your current skill set and not changing a thing. Those are 5 things that, I'll be honest with you, even without my help, if you spent a couple hours on your resume, you could accomplish these 5 things. You may have some of them already. Some of you out there have well-written summary sections, not many, but some. Some of you out there, your skill section is already kind of highly attuned to the job market. Good on you. Skill section is another one where kind of less is more. The hiring manager only wants to see the skills that they have listed on the job description. There's no extra credit. So if a hiring manager says this is a Power BI job, you need to be an expert in Power BI with 3 years of using Power BI. You don't get bonus points for saying I also do Tableau. They don't care. Because of like chances are most kind of low to mid-level analytics jobs, you're going to use 1 or 2 platforms or coding languages almost exclusively in that job. There are not a lot of jobs out there where you're expected to kind of deal from every deck and do Power BI today for one client and Tableau for another client. There are some jobs out there, but chances are what's going to happen in that case is there's going to be a team. This was the case at my first job at Analect. There was a team of marketing analysts, and we would have a client that used Power BI and wanted all the reports in Power BI. Well, guess who got that client? The Power BI experts, of which I was not one. And then there would be another client that would come in and they would want all their reports in Tableau. Well, guess who got that? The Tableau experts. The ones that were indifferent, they got their reports in our Salesforce-based software. I was the guy that mastered Alteryx, so every project that came down that needed to use Alteryx, this guy got it. I quickly worked myself into a position where 90+% of the time during the day, I was using Alteryx only. And so most low-level jobs are going to be like that. You're going to be working in one platform almost exclusively or primarily, at least for each particular task. Now, you may be using SQL for queries, and you may be using a particular, Microsoft SQL Server, so you may have to be an expert in Microsoft SQL Server. But you're doing SQL queries and pulling data, and you're pulling data into Alteryx, or you're coming from Snowflake server, and then you're outputting into Tableau. So you may need a flavor of SQL. You may need a business intelligence platform. Probably also need to know a few tricks in Excel. But you're generally going to need to know one way to do each thing. You're not going to have to build dashboards in Tableau and Power BI on a daily basis. It's going to be one or the other. Okay. So I won't belabor that any further, but there's 5 things that, yeah, within an hour or two, you can take your resume from something that looks like chewed oatmeal and turn it into something that is going to satisfy the one requirement of a resume, get an interview. Um, so it really is that simple. Unless you are a rank beginner and you just have no skills and you are starting from square one, which I've gotten people like that interviews as well. So I can work some magic. However, you got to come to me for that. Um, if you have the requisite kind of base level analytics skill set, you are qualified to work. And you are applying, and getting nothing back, your resume is the problem. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe these dumb influencers out there that are trying to sell you some other thing. Yes, I do resumes. I'm honestly not trying to sell you nothing. As a matter of fact, I am sometimes openly trying to discourage people from using my service, as you can see some of my content lately. Um, I would rather you listen to my advice, take it, and then give me a comment on my YouTube video and say, that was wonderful. And your advice caused me to fix my resume, and now I have a job. That will warm my heart. It won't pay my bills, but that will make me tremendously happy. Uh, Major data. So yeah, I don't need your money. I don't need your business. What I would like is for you to watch this video, learn something, fix your resume, go get a job, and then come back and tell me that my words had a positive impact on you. So, if any of these things applies to you, if your resume has a horrendous format, if you know you got the Calibri template off of Word, go fix it. There's good templates out there. Um, Topic for another time. But go fix the template. Make sure you got a summary. Make sure that summary establishes in concrete terms your value right off the top. Make sure your skills section matches the job description. Make sure your experience matches the job requirements. Okay. So most jobs will have some kind of technical requirements. That's to match to your skills section. But then most of the time it will say something like, 3 to 5 years of what? Like the thing that they need experience in. So 3 to 5 years of dedicated data work, 3 to 5 years of working with SQL, Tableau, Power BI, Excel, whatever. Whatever that is, make sure you got it. If not, go apply for a different job. There's plenty of jobs out there, and there are going to be jobs out there that match your set of qualifications. Okay, so skills section matches the job description, experience matches the job requirements as far as years of experience and titles and all of that sort of thing. May have to get a little bit creative with that. Do not lie. Don't lie. And certainly don't tell anybody that I told you to lie, because I did not. And the last one, make sure the experience section is all killer, no filler, no word salad. It is not a nutritious dish. Trust me. So take out all of the buzzwords and the buzz phrases, take out all of the activities, not accomplishments. Make sure that your experience section is hard hitting, detailed, and quantifiable to the greatest extent possible. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not kidding you. I would not sit here and waste your time, and I would not be talking to myself on Zoom/YouTube for hours at a time when I could be drinking beer and watching football. There's no football, but yeah, absolutely. So if you take this advice to heart and you go fix your resume, come back and let me know. Let me know if this advice is valuable to you, or if it's not valuable to you. If you go fix up your resume with all of this and you come back and say, Bellamy, you're an idiot. Like none of that worked for me. And you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'd love to hear that too. I'm always up for a good argument. And honestly, if you come back and tell me that, I'm going to take that as a personal challenge and I'm going to want to dig in and see what happened. So now, 9 times out of 10, people come back and they say, hey, that thing you told me made all the difference in the world. I think that this advice will make a difference for you. Just remember, there's a 2-step process to getting a job. Step 1, get an interview. Step 2, win said interview. Okay. Now, step 2, topic for another time. Step 1, get the interview. What gets you the interview? Your resume. Okay. And so an effective resume is a difference between getting interviews at an acceptable rate that's eventually going to get you a job, or hearing nothing and sitting there like a hamster spinning a wheel, applying, and getting nothing from it. Okay. So let's avoid that. Let's all get out there. We're gonna hit that Shangri-La. We're gonna get to that nirvana where everybody's got a data job that's qualified for one. And we're gonna close that information gap. So let's sell the destination, not the journey. The destination is we have full-time gainful employment in this awesome data industry. Stick with me. I'll make you a hero. We'll get you there. All right. Semper Fidelis, and I'll talk to you later.